morning, children. Welcome back in online class. And after a long period of holidays, and we are starting again from today. I will be dealing with the first chapter for the third term syllabus, G Science, chapter 8, which talk about some properties of water. So before we discuss to the main objectives, it is always good to know the importance of water. Water, if we look in and around, or if we look at the globe, we can see that water is present almost everywhere on earth. At least 2/3 of the land mass is covered with water. Or we can, on the other hand, say that 71% of the earth is covered with water. And water is mostly seen, or it is present in oceans, seas, rivers, lakes, ponds, underground water, and we can also see the ice cap when it melts, and in the form of atmosphere we can also see when it rains. So it is present in almost everywhere. Now it is also good to mention that water is very important in our daily life. It is the basic needs of human being. Now, if we say the importance, if we were to cite, we can say like water is used for drinking, for washing our clothes, for bathing, then for cooking, for watering the plant, or for cropping, and so many other things. It is a very useful resource for human. Now, coming to the point of this chapter, let us talk first about physical properties of water. Now, when we say physical, it is broadly categorized into 3 parts. You can here see very clearly, I have written down here. Number 1 is solid water. Number 2, liquid water, and number 3, water as a gas. So categorically, water can be divided into 3, that is solid water, liquid water, and water as a gas. So what do we see in solid water? Let us focus a little bit on it. In solid water, it has always a fixed shape and size. Secondly, it does not take the shape of the container in which it is kept. So a good example is ice cube. Ice cube, it has a fixed shape and size. You can always see inside a freezer when ice is brought from the freezer, we can see an ice cube. So one of the best example is that. So if we place it, we can see that it has a fixed shape and size, more or less. Ice cube is more or less like this. So the shape, it remains the same, and size also remains the same. But if you put in a glass or on a plate, it does not take the shape of that glass or what we call plate, but it remains the same as a square or a cube. So likewise, when we jump back to number 2, that is liquid water, this is the most common water, which is in a wet and liquid form, fluid form, yes, liquid water. It has what? It does not have a fixed shape or size. it takes the shape of the container in which it is stored. So water has no shape or it has no size. If you keep in a glass of water, in a glass, if you pour it in a glass, then it will take the shape of the glass. And if you put in a polythene or inside a test tube or whatever container may be, it will take the shape of that container. So that is why it says it does not have a fixed shape or size. It turns into different shapes when it is put in a container. So it does not have fixed shape or size. And let us come back to the third one, that is water as a gas. So here also it does not have a fixed shape or size, and it takes the shape of the container in which it is stored. The same like liquid water as a gas. It does not have fixed shape or size, but it takes the shape of a container. For example, water vapor. Water vapor, we all knew when you heat water, it forms a vapor. And that vapor, if you put, it turns into, it takes the shape of the container when you expose it. Okay, right. Now, from these physical properties of water, there are a few more things that we can bring, and some important things that can be discussed. That is, water can change form. So we already knew the major parts: solid, liquid, and gas form. Water can take in three different shapes. Apart from that, there are few more things that takes place in water. How it changes form. Now, to look at it, let us discuss one by one. Solid to liquid. Solid to liquid, in other words, we can say melting. How? The process in which a solid changes into liquid on heating. When it is exposed under the sun or when you heat it, then it turns into, it is known as melting. Example, heating ice melts into water. When you bring an ice cube or an ice from the freezer and expose it on the surface, maybe on the plate or a short shirt, then we can see that due to the heat presence on the surroundings, the ice will slowly melt, and after a few moments or a few time, it will convert into normal water. So to prove that there, the solid can change into liquid by heating or on heating. So secondly, water transformation or change can also take place here, liquid to gas. So water is a liquid itself. Then how can it turn into gas? That's a big question. Now let us see the process in which a liquid changes into vapors. Vapors is in a gaseous form or gaseous state. On heating again, it is known as evaporations. We all know evaporations. When water is heated, for example, when we make a tea or when we boil water, it forms a vapor. So that vapor, it is a sign of evaporations. So that is why the liquid can transform into gas when we heat on it or by heating. So the third one, water can also change from gas to liquid. Let's see the process in which a gas changes into liquid on cooling. It is known as condensation. So how do we know that gas turns into liquid? Let us see, when we keep ice in a glass. When we keep ice in a glass, after some time, droplets on the surface of the glass forms on it. So the droplets of water is a sign and symbol of liquid that forms from a gas. When ice is kept in a glass, then droplets of water is formed on the surface of that particular glass where ice is kept. So that turns into liquid. Now the fourth one, liquid to solid. Let us come back to this. The process in which a liquid changes into solid is known as solidification. In other words, we call it freezing. It is very common when we put water on a freezer tray and put inside the freezer, then after a few hours, if we open and check it back, the particular water which you put on the tray will turn into solid. It will freeze it and it will form an ice cube. So these are the few parts that we are discussing on physical properties of water. So now we will go back to the next objective. Alright, we have been discussing about the physical properties of water earlier. Now let us come back to the second point, that is water and water solutions. Now water play a great role here. You see, when you sometimes make juice or lemonade, what do? We take a glass of water, we mix with one scoop of sugar, 1 scoop of salt, whatever it may be. Then we mixed it in the water, stir it, and then along with lime juice we add it, and then we take that lemonade. So now here the things what we have to understand is, you see here, the substance that dissolves is known as solute. Now what is solute? Solute is, in another word we can call sugar. Sugar is a solid form, but when it mixes with water, water is the solvent here. The substance in which the solute dissolves. Solute dissolves means when it mixes, it melts and it turns into water. That is why solute dissolves. It is known as the solvent. So solvent. When you take a glass of water, that water inside the glass is the solvent and solute is the sugar when you mixed it. And after some time when you stir it, it totally dissolves. Dissolve means it totally, that sugar totally mixed with water and it is invisible. So that transformation when it takes place together with solute and solvent, it forms a solution. Got it? Solution is simple. When water and sugar mix together, it forms solution. Now, in solution, when solution takes place, the solute is always invisible. Why it is invisible? Because it mixes with the solvent, that is water. Now, let us come back to the third point, that is conditions that are required for making a solutions. There are few conditions. If you want to make your solution faster, there are few tips that you have to remember. So in less time, if you want to make it dissolve in water, what you have to do is, you have to warm. If you put in a warm water, either sugar, salt or milk powder, whatever it may be, which can take place as a solution, if it is in warm water, it solute faster. The solution can be formed in less time. That means in a very limited time, less time, that water can be dissolved within no time. The second point is that the solution can be formed quickly if the solution is stirred in the solvent. Stirred means you take a spoon and you stir it in a glass of water. Then the sugar or salt what you mix with water will dissolve very fast. So that is called stir. We have to mix it with the help of spoon. And the third one, the solute is in powder form or broken in smaller pieces or particles, dissolve faster in the solvent. The third one is anything that is break or that is broken into smaller pieces, like sugar cube or smaller particles of sugar. There are different sizes of sugar. When you make it smaller size, then it dissolves faster than the bigger particles. The fourth one, how you can make solution faster. When the quantity of solvent can be increased in order to make the solution quickly. That means quantity of solvent, quantity of water, that is. Quantity of water, if it is more, then whatever you put, either salt or sugar or powder, then it dissolves faster than any other substance. That is why more quantity means more quantity of liquid, that is water, it dissolves faster. So we are getting 4 conditions where we can do or make the solution faster. Now let us come to the 4th point. Almost we are ending. Soluble and insoluble substance. Very simple. I have written here what is soluble and what is insoluble. Any substance that forms solutions when it is mixed with water, any substance, these are called soluble substance. For example, sugar or salt or flour, all these things, when it is mixed with water, it is easily soluble. So this part is called soluble substance. And another substance are there when it is mixed with water, but it does not solute. So these are called insoluble substance. What are those? Like rubber, stone, coin. Even if you put in the water, it will not mix up. The same it will remain. So these are called insoluble. So very simple. Soluble and insoluble. There is nothing much to know. Just the differences. One it dissolves, one it does not dissolve. Now the fifth and the last one, objects that float and sink in water. We all know what is floating. Floating means which does not go inside the water, but it is moving on the surface of the water. And sink means when you drop something on the surface of water, it goes deep inside the water. That is called sink. So, for example, float. Any objects that weigh more than water, displaced by it, sinks into water. More than the water. That means like coin or stone. If you drop in a bucket, it will sink on the base of that bucket. But if you put a small paper boat or a balloon or a water bottle or a small plank, a stick, it will float on the surface of water. Why? Because it has, the weight is less than the water displace. So these are the difference between floating and sinking. The objects that float and sink. So with this we conclude the chapter of this, chapter 8, some properties of water, and the exercises you will get soon after a few days along with this video clips. So thank you students, and see you in the next chapter.